Thank you for joining the ACA Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective for this Tuesday, April 13th. We're excited to have everybody with us today. I'm Robert Theobald, Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services here at the Arizona Commerce Authority. First, I'd like to start by thanking all of our community partners. We could not do these bootcamp sessions without their help, support, expertise, and time. We've got over 100 community partners that are helping support the boot camp, and we appreciate them very much. So for those that are not familiar with the Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective, it was started to help prepare small businesses to work through the COVID crisis and return stronger than ever. It is a statewide initiative supported by our community partners, and a great example is today's session with Mountain Mojo out of Flagstaff, helping with this session. And besides a boot camp, it is also a resource collective. On our website, we've got great information about all these different parts of the boot camp and resource collective. But first, for those also that aren't aware, we started these boot camps almost 1 year ago. We started on April 27th of 2020 because we thought that COVID was going to be 6 weeks and we'll be back to normal. And of course, we all know that didn't happen, but we also found out that the boot camps are were very successful and provide a lot of great content. So we've continued those on. We do them every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. And we provide content from our community partners. One of the great things about our website is that all of the sessions we've done over the last year, about 140 different sessions, are recorded and available to you at no cost on our website under the archive section at the bottom of the web page. It's a tremendous content library with expertise on just about every topic a small business could face, and we continue to grow that library each and every week. So that's a great tool. It's available to everyone. Also on this website, you'll find the upcoming sessions, so you can register for those. And then you will find our resource collective. And the resource collective are the tools and resources brought by our community partners to help small businesses during the COVID crisis. This is a sample listing of some of those guides and resources that are available to you. For example, Safe Retail, guide for the restaurant industry from the National Restaurant Industry, manufacturing, construction, cosmetology, etc. A lot of great information is available there. Another great website to access is the ACA's COVID-19 Arizona Business Resources page. On this page, you can find business guidance, financial information. We update whenever new grants or loan programs come out. We update that web page as quick as possible with the most current information. So there's a lot of other things on here as well to help support businesses throughout Arizona. Quickly, some of the programs that we have at the ACA that can help support small businesses are small business services. And we work with the SBA and the Small Business Development Centers, and we can help businesses navigate those programs. We can connect you with local banking contacts if you're looking for loans or funding of different types, whether it's micro loans or PPP loans. We can help guide through that. Our workforce division can work with small businesses looking to hire new employees or do some upskilling and training for their existing employees. And our manufacturing extension partnership program, Arizona MEP, can work with manufacturers for their COVID needs, emergency planning, lean consulting, etc. They have a lot of great programs to support manufacturers throughout the state. Additionally, for those looking to start a business, we have our small business checklist. And this is an online interactive tool that helps entrepreneurs know what licensing, registration, and compliance needs are at the local, state, and federal levels, and then also industry levels as well. Very great resource available at no cost to everyone out there. And then finally, the last website I want to mention is the state's COVID-19 information and resource page, arizonatogether.org, for all your COVID information needs. So some quick updates, like to transition into these updates. Just released yesterday with some information from the IRS on a temporary expense deductions regarding food and beverage that may be purchased for by your business or for your business. We will post this link in the chat so you can pull it up. You'll definitely want to read it to make sure you're able to follow and take advantage of this deduction. So some great information. Also, this link for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund information. I found a great little flyer that restaurant.org put together, and I wanted to share that because it's for the information we have. It's a great summary for restaurants, and as more information about that fund comes out, we will definitely share it here. For those that are still looking at PPP, the PPP Extension Act extended the PPP loans up to May 31st. Definitely, you need to get in your applications by then through your lender. And then a reminder of the Startup Together AZ month. Got a bunch of different activities going on in April for Startup Together AZ. You can find the list of activities and programs at startuptogetheraz.com. And again, all these links we will post in the chat so you can access them. So with that, we're going to look at upcoming sessions. So today we have how to prioritize your marketing efforts with the team from Mountain Mojo Group. On Thursday, we have Robin Reed, the CEO of the Black Chamber of Arizona. A great speaker, really looking forward to his presentation as well. And then next week, we have Marketing Your Authentic Brand Story with Mike Jones from Resound Creative. And then following up that one is another marketing piece on how to up your marketing to see results. You'll notice we've got a number of different marketing things here. New businesses, marketing is important to get the name out, and if you're trying to grow your business is important as well. And each of these marketing presentations will touch on different pieces. So we're real excited to have them all together in such a short time. So with that, we're going to turn our time over to our today's speakers. We've got Rand Jenkins, the Chief Imagination Officer and CEO of Mountain Mojo Group, and Sylvia Dieter, a project manager at the Mountain Mojo Group. So Rand and Sylvia, I will stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you.
Thanks, Robert. We appreciate you you having us. Thanks, Lisa, for all the hard work and prepping and getting this going. And just thanks to the ACA for all the resources that they're giving these small businesses to keep them rocking. I will attempt to share my screen. I'm hoping that this works out. All right. So we'll go into presentation mode. So just to give everybody a heads up, Sylvia will be monitoring the chat. She is our lead strategist here, and so she can answer almost any question, but she'll also be able to kind of help guide you through the accompanying workbook. She, I believe, has dropped a link in the chat for people to be able to grab that workbook. And it's really important. I feel like that's going to be a tremendous amount of the value today is you guys being able to fill out that workbook and have something concrete to take with you as far as getting, a pretty solid marketing plan going for your business. Let's see. Okay, so everybody can see my screen. We're good to go. Awesome. So we'll get going.
Real quick, Rand, just remind everybody, use the Q&A box for questions, and then Rand and Sylvia are going to have some interaction during their presentation to use in the chat. So we'll keep those kind of separated so we can keep track of everything and make sure everybody gets their questions answered and their participation noted through the chat. So we appreciate everybody for being here, and that's all yours, Rand.
Perfect. Thanks, Robert, for that. Yes, please. Some of these things you may or may not already have, and if you don't, or if you get lost a little bit, please throw things in the Q&A, and Sylvia will try and get you going. There's going to be some basic things that we cover and some complex things that we cover, but hopefully at the end of the day, you'll have a pretty solid plan moving forward. Yeah, so we're out of Flagstaff, Arizona, like Robert mentioned. We're a team of 7, about to be 8, hopefully in the next few days. and growing, but we do three things. So we sell websites, we design logos, and we do retainers for digital marketing. So we have a pretty wide skill set. We do provide these services for a lot of people around the state, a lot of small businesses, just like you folks. And Sylvia is a branding expert. So she also, besides knowing a lot of things about digital marketing, also understands branding really well. And between the two of us, we've got about almost 15 years of marketing experience that hopefully we'll be able to draw on today. So one of the most important things, people always ask, what should I do with my marketing, or what should I do with my social media? And we like to back up a little bit, kind of zoom out and have a discussion more about the plan than about the execution. Because if you have a really good plan, the execution is much, much simpler, and you actually know whether or not it's going to work. And so that's what we're going to cover today. We'll go through a couple quick marketing pain points, a quick slide on marketing trends, and then we'll dig into some slides that will accompany or mirror the workbook that we have in there. So I think the most important thing here that we're going to talk about today is tracking. So once you have the plan, like we mentioned before, it's going to be really important to be able to have specific metrics that you're able to measure, so that you can see whether or not you're putting the right money in the right places, and you're seeing a proper return based on your, the investment, not just the money, but the time as well. And we're hopefully going to simplify it. I think, we're all experiencing a tremendous amount of decision fatigue on a day-to-day, just trying to survive through the pandemic and through all of these challenging times. And so we're going to try and simplify your marketing down to, really the bare minimum, and then be able to, once you get good at that, be able to expand upon it. And then hopefully, we're going to give you a couple of tips on how to be different. It's one of those things. Some of you are probably in a very competitive market, and it's not easy nowadays. People are inundated with ads. They're inundated with marketing. So how do you stand out and use what is unique and special about your business in your marketing? Yeah, and as far as marketing trends go, this is probably a very obvious slide to most of you, but we like to remind everybody that content really is the focus. The more content you can create, the more content that you can curate, the more content that you can put out through your channels and to your people, the more successful your marketing is going to be. Okay, so let's sharpen those axes. Real quick chat question: who has run a marketing campaign before? Love to see kind of people's comfort level in marketing. Okay, and we'll go through these 7 steps. We'll identify your goal. We'll make sure that you've got all that you need within a team, and what you need for pre-existing assets. We'll button everything up as far as what you've got. We'll identify your audience. We'll define your branding and your messaging, which is a really fun conversation to have. We'll choose some channels, and then when we roll out your campaigns, we'll figure out how we can pivot and or adjust those campaigns moving forward, and also how you're going to measure them. What does success look like? Okay, so the first thing, and it's a really complex question that we ask people on a day-to-day basis, and people struggle to come up with an answer, but there's typically 2 options when it comes to the goal of your marketing. Either you're very successful and you want to brand yourself, and you can focus on branding, or you're just starting up and you really want to focus on getting as many conversions as possible or revenue in the door. And so identifying that goal is really important. And what we try and focus on here, and you'll see this in the workbook, is identifying one product or one service. Now, since this is a limiting factor, this is typically the most difficult conversation we have with new clients. And they want to market everything to everyone. And when they do that, they're not marketing anything to anyone. And so what we try and do when it comes to really educating people on marketing is forcing them to identify either one service or one product. And so if you guys can take a few seconds, and most of you probably already know, but what is your marketing goal? Are you looking to increase revenue by a certain percentage? Are you looking to, boost your Facebook followers by, a certain percentage? What is that very specific goal that you can say, 12 months from now, or at the end of this year, or even at the end of this quarter, whether or not it's been successful. And that, it's kind of cliche, but the SMART goals are really important, making sure that they're measurable and that they're specific. So identify that one product or service, and the workbook kind of has a few options there as well. And then just to put this in the back of your mind, but not necessarily to answer this question, how are you going to track your marketing performance? And so if you haven't quite figured out what your goal is, if you start thinking about how you're going to track that, maybe it will lead to you having an easier time identifying what that goal is. Awesome. So here's a couple more examples. We probably have some realtors here. Obtain 20 monthly buyer and seller phone calls. Phone calls and or form submissions on your website are great goals. Those typically are easy to measure if you have, something like CallRail, which measures phone calls, or if you have Google Analytics on your website, you can measure your form submissions, but that's a really great goal. For the retail industry or somebody who is more product focused or e-commerce perhaps, increase revenue of units sold. And so, here's a couple examples there. Awesome. So does everyone have a goal? This is where Sylvia has to do a lot of typing typically, but hopefully you guys have kind of gotten through step one and you focused on one product or one service. I know it doesn't sound, I know you have a lot that you offer, but we're just going to focus on one today. Okay, moving along. Step two is choosing your team. So oftentimes, you're like, hey, I'm going to start marketing, but you really have to plan how many hours a day or how many hours a week and how much money you're prepared to spend. And it's really important to do that ahead of time so that you don't get overwhelmed. Running a business takes a tremendous amount of time, and setting some very specific goals is going to be, you're going to hold yourself to those goals. It's going to be difficult to do by yourself. So if you can, use one of your employees to help do this, if you can find some family and friends that can do it, anyone that's going to be able to support your efforts on a consistent basis. That's really the key, is being consistent. And then the other thing is look at your pre-existing assets. So take a peek at your social profiles and write those down. Take a peek at your business directory listings, something like Yelp or yp.com. How are people finding you within directory listings? Take a peek at your traditional marketing. Maybe you're in a magazine, a local neighborhood magazine or something like that, digital advertising, maybe you're on Nextdoor or Facebook or Pinterest, and make sure you've got a brand kit. That's one thing that people often overlook, is really dialing in their logo. And within that logo, it's three really basic things. You want to have a logo that is, square and is rectangular, but then you just want consistent colors and consistent fonts. So that's what brand kit means. Your email list. Emails are extremely important nowadays with more and more people going off of social. Email is we run really successful campaigns through email. Obviously, we think that you need a website, Squarespace, Wix. There's a few self-builders out there that are just a couple few $100s. And then domain names is a really important asset for any business to have, your URL. So choosing your team and identifying your budget. People always ask, well, how much money should I be spending on my marketing? And I'll skip ahead a slide. And so basically what you want to do is look at your projected revenue, look at what industry you're in, and figure out what that industry average is for a percentage of spend. And then you've pretty much got your marketing budget from that point. Now, keep in mind that marketing budget, you need to be paying yourself for every hour that you spend on that marketing, and not necessarily paying yourself as much as just making sure you include it in your marketing budget so that when you become a marketing master and you hire someone else to do this, you've already allotted that money through your expenses of your business. And so, we can go back here and take a peek, kind of give you some rough ideas. If you're in the retail industry, a professional agency maybe costs $2,000 a month, where if you hire somebody, who's answering phones to be able to do your social media. Maybe that's going to cost you an extra $500. Advertisements, things like that. And so what you do is you add up all of those things, and then you come up with your annual budget, and then you figure out, okay, well, what's my ROI based on that budget? And you really want to focus on at least 4 times. So if you're 4 times return, so if you're spending, say, $500 a month for somebody to run your social media, and another $500 in Facebook ads, that's $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year. You really want to be getting at least $48,000 back from that. And also keep in mind that the newer the business, the higher your percentage should be. So although there are industry averages, if you're a brand new business, you probably want to double that percentage. And if you're a lifetime, if you've been in business for 20 years, you might be able to cut that budget in half, or that percentage in half. Okay. So does everyone have a team and some assets identified? It's a little bit more clear in the workbook, but hopefully you'll be able to fill that out. And then if you guys have any questions, please drop it in the Q&A, and Sylvia will be able to help you out there. Awesome. So the third thing, and the most obvious, well, sometimes not as obvious, but the easiest way for you to get some traction isn't to run campaigns or even build a campaign. It really is just to fix up your pre-existing assets and make sure that you're doing best practices within your assets. So, you can take a peek at your SEO, which is search engine optimization, and make sure that you're being found well. So you can use SEO Optimer. You can take a peek at how your website is performing on gtmetrics.com and make some quick fixes there to be able to also help your SEO. Google Page Speed Insights. People don't realize how important it is to have a fast website. If your website's not loading within 2 seconds, Google doesn't like your website as much as it likes your competitors' websites. So make sure that your website is performing well, and Google Page Speed Insights will really give you some tips on that. And then take a peek at your competitors. Who is it that in your industry that's doing things really, really well? And what are they doing? Where are they putting their marketing dollars? And then, ask your customers on a day-to-day basis. You can either send out surveys, or you can ask them, hey, how do you think my marketing's doing? And you can get some really good tips there. But you want to make sure that all of those things are buttoned up before you start any of your marketing. We refer to it as, you want to clean up the house before you invite folks over. And so you want to make sure that, if you've got a social media profile, that it's up to date and it's looking good. The cover photo's looking good. It's all dialed in. If you have a website with some old photos, put some new photos on there and make sure that everything's looking good before you start your marketing. So that the buttoning up is really important. Awesome. And so here's just some examples of some things. And I do believe that we have a couple of minutes. And so I'll open one up real quick. But websitegrader.com is another great website testing tool that you can use, where you can run your website on. You just type it in, and then you can see what how you're scoring. And so you can see what your page speeds are, what you need to work on as far as SEO goes, whether or not it's mobile friendly, and whether or not you have an SSL certificate, which is really important for Google. Awesome. And then you can look at social media, and you can look at some other things. And like Robert said, this presentation will be on the website, and so you'll be able to kind of poke around and get a little bit more familiar with what you need to do to get all of your assets up to date and with best practices. Awesome. Any questions? I feel like I can pause there for a second. We can throw anything into the Q&A if you guys have any other questions there. Moving on, identifying your audience. Again, this is probably the second most difficult conversation to have, because everyone technically is your audience, but at the same time, for the purpose of marketing, it is extremely overwhelming trying to figure out how you're going to reach everyone. So in this case, we like to either identify what your favorite person to work with is, your favorite customer, what do they look like? Or what does your ideal customer look like? You may not have them yet, but what do they look like on a day-to-day basis? And it's really important for us to try and figure out, how we're going to reach them. So be very, very specific. I would love to know what this person's age is, what kind of car they drive, how many family members do they have, what is how much do they own a house or do they rent a house? How much do they pay for rent? What's their mortgage look like? Really try and dial this in. Do they like to go to yoga? Are they online shoppers? What does their everyday look like, so that we can be really specific about that person, so that we know exactly how to market to them. And also look at what their favorite brands are. What are they wearing? What are they purchasing? Like I said, what are they driving? So that you can kind of align your brand with their brand, the brands that they're already using. And I think this is a really important one. Are there any barriers preventing them from using your product or service? What are their pain points right now that you can address in your marketing, to let them know that, hey, this isn't a barrier. You may think it is, but it is not. But yes, we really want you to be as specific as possible. So you've identified one service or product. Now we're asking you very politely if you can identify one person that you would like to market to. And again, once you get really good at selling this one product to this one person, then you can sell another type of product or service to another type of person, and you can, really expand your business's growth quickly. But for the purpose of today, really prioritizing your marketing, let's focus on one product or service with one person. Awesome. Let me see. I would like to click into one of these real quick, just so that you can see an example of what a very specific, this is for a client that we have up in Bozeman, Montana. Hopefully. Sorry, I think the internet's just a little slow. There it is. Okay, so Bobby and Beth are local business owners in Bozeman. They are small. They own a small boutique women's clothing store near downtown. With a high overhead, they're DIYers for store projects and are able to perform minor repairs in their store. Keep in mind, this is for an Ace Hardware franchise. And so, we identify what they're using on a day-to-day basis as far as their media preferences. We also identify what their brand preferences are, what they're really loyal to. And then we also, try and figure out what it is that they're looking for. And, price is really important to them. And also the social media that they're consuming on a day-to-day basis, not just for your product, but for, a million other things. And then, then at that point, you've kind of boiled it down to very specific people. You've got their age, you've got their occupation, marital status, and, technology familiarity is a really important thing as well. Awesome. So any questions about identifying your audience? I feel like we're zooming along, trying to fit 10 years of marketing into about 35, 40 minutes. Any questions? Awesome. Okay, so defining your brand and messaging. Really, really important at this step to identify who you are and what's most important to you. So we like to say it's 3 U's for every we. And what that means is on your website or in your social media, we really want you to say, to be speaking, when you're speaking to your customer, you really want to say, you will get this and you will experience that and you will be happy with this, and then say, we do this. So 3 U's for every we. And in doing that, you will start to figure out who you are, who your customers are, and how you're best going to be able to connect to them. You can go on any website, most typical websites, and immediately something will pop up, on the homepage that says, we sell a million things and we do this and we are this and it's really hard for somebody who's on your website to connect with you if you're not telling them what they need and what they are going to experience when they interact with your brand. And so mission, vision, and core values, extremely important within your brand and your messaging. What's most important to you? you as a person, you know, your family, your friends, what's really driving your business at its core. And then those core values, once identified, really start to be kind of that foundation of everything that you do. So every time you build a social media post, or if you put something on your website, take a peek at your mission and vision and your core values and ask yourself, do those align? Does this post align with who I am? Does this page on my website align with who I am? And oftentimes it's a really great, we've referred to it as the North Star. It's a really great reference point for you in all of your branding and all of your messaging, to make sure that you're just going back to your mission, your vision, and your core values, so that people who are aligned with your brand don't see messages that may be off brand. Some basic things as far as design, making sure that, you know, now that we've kind of figured out your brand and your messaging, you know, making sure that the colors, the fonts, your logos are all consistent every single time. Photography and videography, we do have, you know, people have pretty high standards, and at the same time, creating content with your iPhone and shooting a video or taking some photos is much more valuable than not doing anything at all. So if you can't afford the big time photographer or the videographer, you know, get some stuff up. You know, as I said before, content is king. Get some stuff up as much as you can. A few, you know, if you haven't looked at Canva yet, it's a really great platform, extremely inexpensive, and really valuable in getting all of your colors and your fonts and your logos in one place, and then creating a tremendous amount of marketing from there. You can do photos and videos, social media posts. You can even build website pages on there nowadays. Your business cards, you know, any point of contact that you have with your clients, make sure that those are all, again, on brand, both visually and also with your messaging. And then in-store signage, you know, you have to support that kind of, or you have to support your branding. So I think we'll use, let's see, we'll go back to that client, and I'll give you a quick example of a mission and vision statement. So this one's pretty basic. It's a, let's see what we've, okay, so we've got a vision statement, which, you know, the helpful place, it's kind of that national tagline, but then also a mission statement that has been identified. And actually at the end of this slide, I have some links that you can click on to identify your mission and your vision. And then the guiding principles, what's most important to you. And again, every time you make a social media post, if you take a peek at these words right here, what's most important to you, and you can ask yourself, hey, you know, does this post convey, you know, that these are my, you know, guiding principles, my core values. Awesome. And then we'll got a quick brand kit that I'll bring up as well. So from a visual perspective, just making sure, here's a local coffee company that we represent, but making sure that you've got the right typography, you know, the fonts that I was mentioning earlier, you've got the right colors that you consistently use, you know, and you'll be able to upload these colors into Canva, and or, you know, send them to your graphic designer should be able to give these to you, and you can send them to people that are doing newspaper ads or people that are doing your social media posts. But the color palette is extremely important. And then if you can afford it, you know, horizontal logos, simple logos, black and white logos, square logos, and what we refer to as icons are all extremely important for your brand. But here's kind of just a quick example of what to do and what not to do within a logo package, or what we refer to as a brand kit. Awesome. Oh, and then sample tone. I feel like you know, we've got a lot of Flagstaff examples here, but as far as you know, tone goes, this particular client is really focused on making the mall cool again, and just sharing products from a personal perspective, so that there's as many posts on here that have very specific pictures, very relatable pictures, and just a sharing of information, and the tone of it is really just more conversational than anything. we always tell people when it comes to social media, don't put anything on Facebook that you wouldn't sit down, at dinner with a friend and tell and share with them. Okay, and the only other thing give you a quick tip on social is the 60-30-10 rule. 60% of all your social media content should be shared content, and it should not necessarily have anything to do with your specific company. 30% should have, some helpful tips from your company, and then 10% of your social media should be focused on sales. Hey, I've got this discount, or this is how much things cost, or you can buy this, that, and the other. Okay, so speaking of social media, step 6, and please ask any questions if the branding portion, if I went through, we're trying to cover a lot today, so please throw questions in there and Sylvia will be able to respond. So choosing your channel. Again, you have one product or service and you have a goal for that. You have one specific person you're selling to. Now let's identify one specific channel. Like I mentioned earlier, email has really come on strong over the last few years. As social media kind of goes down a little bit as far as engagement, email is starting to go up. And so, if you've got a great email list and those people are very loyal to you, that might be a really good option. If you are in a very competitive place, I think search is a really great place to go and focus on as far as a single channel. Radio, television, billboards, those things are still extremely valuable and good alternatives. Word of mouth, lots of times people look to advertise their business on the internet to millions and millions of people, when all they really need to do is tap into their pre-existing 10 or 15 or 20 clients and create a sales package or an email or a phone call messaging that just says, hey, would you mind recommending me to a few friends? Do you know anyone who might be able to help my business? And that's a large part of your marketing when you create those types of things. It runs right into sales and business development. And then now this last one, which I love, in my former life, I was an event producer. And it was really sad over the last year to see all the events that were canceled, but now you see a tremendous amount of them coming back really quickly. And so going to events, being, printing out a flyer and some business cards, getting a really nice tent designed and maybe some banners up, but going to events is fantastic marketing. Awesome. So let's see. We'll take a peek at a channel example. This is for the City of Flagstaff in their Office of Sustainability. Hopefully this will load up. So this is, a marketing strategy like we're teaching you folks on today, but on a different kind of on a much bigger level. So let's see. So this is the slide. So basically, we've chosen a very specific channel for them, which is Facebook. We have a very specific goal that is set for them. And we have, I believe, a very specific persona that we've identified for them. So it's very similar to what you folks are building today with your marketing workbook. But again, I hope that it doesn't feel limiting for you now, but really choosing one specific channel is important at this point. Okay. I'll pause for 1 second. I feel like we're looking good on time. We would definitely want to have some conversations with you folks at the end of this. We're hoping to have a few minutes to open it up and really talk and answer some specific questions for your specific business. So step 7 is the execution portion, which is always a fun one. So now that you've on your marketing workbook, we ask you to reaffirm that you've got your single product or service, that you've got your goal, and you've got your person chosen with the specific channel. And then you can start brainstorming really fun campaign concepts from there, depending on which channel you're using. The key here, and like I mentioned before, is trying to figure out whether or not something is successful. And so I think, the identification of how your, whatever the channel is, how you're doing now. So say you choose emails and you've been sending emails, for the last 12 months through, say, MailChimp, benchmarking exactly what you're doing before you start your marketing campaign, so that you can see, once you run that campaign for a month or a week or whatever it is, you can look at your analytics based on, how many people are opening, how many people are clicking, how many people are converting, so that you can see whether or not the campaign that you've now created is successful or not. There are some links as well in the end of this presentation to help if you do not have to help with trying to figure out which analytics are appropriate for which channel. But if you don't have Google Analytics, number one, if you don't have a website, I highly recommend getting a website. But once you get that website, make sure that you install Google Analytics as soon as possible, because that really is going to be able to track whatever campaign it is that you're going to run. You're driving traffic for a very specific reason to your website and or to your phone. And so you want to make sure that you're going to be able to measure how many people are coming from your investment of time and money into your marketing. Awesome. Real quick sample report. This retail one might be a little bit better to share. But some really basic analytics that you can do. Let's see if we can load this up, hopefully. So, our specific goal here was to get 150 event responses on Facebook. And so Facebook gives you a tremendous amount of analytics and reports, but and you can see exactly how much you can spend on a total campaign, how much you can spend on a cost per click, but then also how many people you're going to get as far as impressions go, and how many clicks you're going to get, and whether or not your goal is realistic, or if it needs to be maybe stretched a little bit or brought down a little bit. But this is kind of a sample report of what you would look like, or what you would see from Facebook as far as your analytics go, and then also from Instagram. Awesome. So although we are trying to fit a tremendous amount of information into a short amount of time, hopefully a little bit of that has helped some of you try and prioritize your marketing. Okay, so we want to be able to open it up now, and I'll stop sharing. We'll open it up now and see if you folks have any questions. Robert, how are we looking on time?
We're good on time. We got plenty of time for questions. So attendees, please share your questions, your marketing questions with Rand and Sylvia. We'd love to hear what you have. Your question, though you may think it's simple, may apply to many others on this webinar as well. So please feel free to ask those questions. So Rand, if I'm a small business, I'm a one-person business, and I'm just trying to get my marketing game going. I'm doing everything in the business because I'm a one-person business. What would be the first thing I should probably look at? I haven't done anything yet.
So we typically look at the brand first. So a logo creation of some sort, and you can go on Fiverr or 99 Designs and those types of things. But it's a really important exercise to go through to make sure that your logo is something that you're really proud of, that you understand your mission and your vision and your guiding principles, that all of those things are felt by the people looking at your logo, and that the name and the logo really resonate with people, and that's a point of pride for you, for potentially employees in the future, and definitely for your customers. And so we always focus on that brand kit first. Let's choose, an appropriate name. Let's get a logo going, colors, fonts, those things. Step 2 is website. Once you have your branding, you really want to get that website up and running so that you can at least be found on the internet, and also, as a landing, if you're talking to people, if you're in a networking group, if you're sharing with friends, sharing that website is extremely important. And then you can, start to, but those are the two assets that you really need to be able to start any business as a solopreneur or, a giant startup.
I just saw a question come in the chat. It says, do you ever consider a picture as a logo a good idea?
So we have seen this in the past, and to answer your question, no. People have been trained, we've all been trained by people who have very successful logos, McDonald's, Nike. We've been trained for people to expect an icon of some sort and or expect to see a name within a business. And so a picture is really difficult for people to translate in their mind that what they're seeing represents a business. Instead, in their mind, it's more, it's typically perceived as marketing or an advertisement of some sort. And so, we've had a few businesses that have been using a picture with, their name written below. And it's just a really difficult, psychologically, it's difficult for your customers to understand that that is a logo. I hope that helps, Nadina. Hopefully I'm saying your name right. But that's a great question.
Looks like we do have some questions in the Q&A.
Oh, perfect. Can you profile the ideal relationship between a client and your marketing group? Yes. So an ideal relationship, actually, so for us, the ideal relationship, we have three things that we really stick to when it comes to clients. And so they have to be kind, they have to be hungry, and they have to be local. They have to be locally owned and operated. And so an ideal relationship for us typically is somebody who really is a go-getter that wants to be able to grow their business. They really understand who they are as a business and exactly what they want to do. And that they're open to both the creative side of, let's bounce some ideas around, but also the analytical side. Let's try and interpret some data as best as we can. What is the best outlet for marketing for construction? That's a fantastic question. Nowadays, a tremendous amount of people are trying to, construction is very, very successful for the most part. A lot of businesses in the construction field are doing really well. But I would say that, portfolio pieces. So if I were in construction, we create what they call, and you can Google this, a content strategy. And so within a content strategy, if we had a construction client, we would simply go out to a job that we just finished. Hopefully we have the before pictures, but then now we have after pictures. We would take the project description, and hopefully get at least 500 words. You would want a minimum of 500 words, but hopefully closer to 1,000 words. Exactly what the client felt from the very beginning. I don't like my bathroom. I thought it was ugly. To I met these, we met with them and we drew up the designs. This is what we selected. Here are some of the brands we used, all the way through. But what you're basically doing when you're creating a portfolio piece is you're creating a landing page on your website that talks about, say a bathroom remodel. And within that, now you have photos and you have really great descriptions of what you've done that you can then translate into a social media channel. You can translate into really great content for your email newsletter that you can also optimize that page and use the word bathroom remodel, use some of the brand names and other things for your SEO on your website. So we call it a content strategy because technically you're only creating content for this one landing page on your website, but you're now able to use it for your social media, you're able to use it for your email newsletters, and you're able to use it for your SEO. And so that's probably what I would recommend, is not necessarily a specific channel as much as specific content. I hope that makes sense, Wendy. Let's see, Charity Sam, Navajo Nation TV and film. Oh yeah, I'm familiar with you guys. So my question is, you mentioned marketing one service. Would that be easiest in marketing one service from each section, or taking one section and marketing their services before introducing the other two sections? So the latter. I would say that, if you're really focused on what are the majority of your customers looking for? And if it's specifically film, I would focus on film first with a very specific persona, a very specific channel. I hope that answers your question, Charity. Typical cost to a small business for a custom website. So a custom website, you probably can find a web developer that will do one, kind of the mom and pop or the startup or the college kid, for maybe $500 to $1,500. If you approach an agency, you're probably going to be, 2,500 to 10 grand. And then if you have a really complex website, say you're an e-commerce website or you have a tremendous amount of products or selection, then it can get really expensive from there. As far as a brand kit goes, I know some people, I'm part of the Anthem Chamber of Commerce, and I know some people in there that'll build an entire brand kit for $600 or $700. And like I said, the 99 designs, you can maybe get a brand kit for, let's say, $100. And then, an agency like ours would probably be, $3,000 to $10,000 in that range. And then a social media wrangler, I love that name. Typically you can find a college kid that really understands social media as long as you're specific with your branding and your audience, your messaging, your tone. You can get somebody for $15 an hour for that, or upwork.com. You can go on there, type in social media, type in what you need, and you can find somebody on there for a few $100s a month that probably has some pretty good experience. And then from an agency perspective, retained services for social media would start around $1,500, and depending on how complex your business is, it can really get up to $15,000, $20,000 a month. So hopefully that answers your question, Kevin. Will some of the analytics reports that you showed for Flagstaff be available? They looked concise and easy to read. Thank you, Evelyn. Unfortunately, we can't share those specific reports, but I don't know. Robert, hopefully somebody's mentioned or has gotten into maybe marketing analytics on one of these. I feel like that could take up a whole hour all by itself, but is there something on the website that might be a good resource for Evelyn?
I'd have to go back and look, but I believe in the archive, we do have something where we talked about analytics a bit, Evelyn. So if you'd like to reach out to me, I'll message you my email and we can find that information for you.
Gotcha. Okay. And Emily, one more question. Do we have time for one more question?
Yes, yeah, we have time.
Awesome. So Emily, that is a fantastic question, and it can be extremely overwhelming. So as far as the foundation of, getting all of your marketing assets created, that's probably going to be 20 to 40 hours, depending on the complexity, just to be able to get your website going and your brand finished and those types of things. And so that can take a month or two, unless that's your primary focus for a week or two. Once you do that, though, and you have those assets, it's difficult for me to estimate the amount of time, but it really depends on how many people you're trying to reach and how many you need just to be able to eat. How many new customers do you need to have a sustainable business? But it could be an hour a day, it could be a half day once a week, it could be a full day, if you're just starting out. But you're right. I mean, as far as the fitting it into the workload, I think time blocking is really important as a small business. I'm an entrepreneur. I've started a few businesses where it was just me, and then slowly grew them. And it really, for me, it was most successful to do the marketing first thing in the morning. I spend an hour, I engage, I have a bunch of energy. That's when my flow is. I get as much as I can out, and then I go about my day and I try and tackle everything. And then I check in around noon, I check in around 5, if I'm making social media posts for the engagement. But I dedicate, an hour every single morning when I first start going on or start doing things. Kevin, it's Upwork without the S. And it's a pretty popular. Awesome. Wendy, hopefully that answers your questions. Anyone else?
That looks like all the questions we've got so far.
Okay.
Those are some great questions. I appreciate everybody asking those.
Yeah.
I'm sure more than one person got some benefit out of those responses. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate that. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap up just a couple minutes early. Let everybody get a restroom break or get a coffee refill before their next 10 o'clock meeting or something. But we appreciate Rand and Sylvia for being here today and sharing this great information, sharing the workbook and then answering those questions. A lot of very good information. I appreciate it. We just want to remind everybody, Thursday, 9 a.m. is our next session with Robin Reed from the Black Chamber of Commerce, CEO of that. He's a great speaker. It's going to be an excellent session. So with that, everybody have a great Tuesday. Enjoy your day. Be safe, and we'll see you on Thursday. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Robert, Lisa.
Thanks,
Faith,
Rand. Thanks,
you.
Sylvia.
Thank you.